This week's episode is about covenant. I'm Rachael Keefe, and this is Monday's Muse. Looking around, I see the beauty of creation, covered in clean snow that makes all things bright and new. And it reminds me of the covenant we read in last week's texts about Noah and God's promise to not destroy creation. And when we participate in that promise, that means we are also keeping covenant with God to not destroy what God has made. And moving from that covenant into this week's story of Abraham and God's covenant to Abraham to make of Abraham a great nation, it is making me think how covenant is related. The new covenant does not negate the old covenant. The covenant God made with Abraham builds and expands the covenant that God made with Noah. And the covenant that God will make with Moses expands the covenant that God made with Abraham, and so on until we get to the new covenant made in Jesus, the covenant of love. And God keeps the covenant God has made with God's people for all time. God's steadfast love endures forever. The problem is that we are, as I like to say, spectacularly bad at keeping up our end of the covenant. We haven't done very well with not destroying creation. We haven't done very well to do as Abraham did and walk blameless before God. And we haven't done very well with the other covenants right on through Jesus with loving our neighbor as ourselves. And these covenants nest within each other and build on each other and give us so much direction about how to be God's people. And yet we are so easily distracted by pretty shiny things and the lesser gods of our own making. Lent is the perfect opportunity for us to examine how we keep covenant with God. What do we do to fulfill our end of the deal? We know that God's steadfast love endures forever. Nothing will change that. But how are we doing? Lent gives us the opportunity to look at those places where we fail to not destroy creation, where we fail to walk blameless before God, where we fail to live in community with our neighbors, loving as Jesus loved. I don't have the answers on how to do it better, but I know that change begins when we look at ourselves and what we're doing and what we're not doing honestly, and invite the Holy Spirit into our lives to transform us and to lead us in new directions. So my prayer for all of us during this Lenten season is that we learn to live more fully into the covenant of love that God extends to us always. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.